Varity got a helper showing up. I'm gonna help film today. Thank you very much. So today I am back with another books I love but I never talk about video because you guys seem to like the last one, and it's kind of nice to be able to bring up like old book, not like old books, I mean, but some from like a few years ago that I don't really get to talk about that often anymore. You know, obviously all of these books I've talked about in various videos, so it's not like this is the first time I'm speaking about them, but they're ones that I don't necessarily feel like I get to talk about a lot because they don't tend to fit in like certain rec videos or, you know, like certain tropes that I tend to do rec videos for. So I'm really excited. I have, I think, like 9 that I'm going to talk about today. I could literally make a bunch more of these videos. I did one a few months back, so as always, I can definitely do more in the future as well. That's it. We're gonna go ahead and jump right on in, and we're gonna start off with a good one, and this one kind of like re-entered my head again because one of my friends actually just read it, and that is Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. This is the indie cover. The new cover does have like a flower on it or whatever, and it's like traditionally published, but this was the old cover with Mr. August West on it, which I personally love this one because so hot. Anyways, this one follows August and Iris. August is a professional basketball player, and he has this rival in the league that he basically has been rivals with since they were like kids. They've just always been competing with each other, and as adults that rivalry has still transferred over into the NBA, and they still hate each other. You know, he's doing his thing. He's playing basketball, and one night he's out at a bar, and he ends up meeting this one woman, and they kind of hit it off a little bit, and that happens to be Iris, and they just have a great night. But then when they leave, and August is kind of like, so you want to come over? She's like, yeah, no, I have a boyfriend, so I cannot. And they both go their separate ways. However, they do end up seeing each other again when it is revealed that she is actually dating his rival, and August runs into them again. It goes from there. I will just say, so when I went into this, I thought this was going to just be like a fun little sports romance. It is a very heavy book. Definitely check your trigger warnings. Deals with domestic violence, deals with very heavy topics and heavy themes. It truly is so good. The way that August he is like a perfect book boyfriend in my book. Okay, I love him forever and always. And just the way that he takes care of Iris and always has her back is just amazing. And also Iris is just an incredibly strong heroine, really, really like vulnerable, and just her journey is incredible to follow. So anyways, if you haven't picked this up yet, I also really love Blockshot. I haven't read the third and final book in this series, but Blockshot, the second one, I also really liked. And I feel like I never really get to talk about this because I don't feel like it fits into a lot of like necessarily like trope videos that I do, but I love this book. Next up, I think this one was actually banned at one point potentially, and that is Shame by Fiona Cole. This is one of the first ones that I ever read by her. If you are new here, I love Fiona Cole's books. I've read almost her entire backlist. I think there are only like 3 books in her backlist that I haven't read. I'm a huge fan of hers, but I feel like I don't get to talk about this series a lot, where I talk about like the Voyeur and the Blame It on the Alcohol series quite a bit, but this is a standalone, and this one is again a bit of one, like check your trigger warnings with this one. It's not as dark like in terms of content of Long Shot, but it's definitely a little more like taboo, I would say. This one, our hero and heroine, they grow up next door to each other actually, and they're at first kind of just like friends, you know, whatever, but then as they get older they start realizing that like they're maybe interested in the same kind of things, and they're kind of like learning how to like test that out with each other. They become a safe space for each other to kind of explore things. However, then there is something that happens that kind of then rips the two of them apart, and then we jump ahead years later, and it's kind of like second chance then, and it's them in the future kind of finding their way back to each other. But obviously like that past hurt doesn't just go away, and also the things that they did together, you know, like the boundaries that they pushed, you know, that it just created a lot between them that then they have to like surmount in the future. I really love this one. Like I said, it is a little taboo, so just be aware of that, but I really loved it. And also just I really have like a new appreciation for second chance. I actually really like getting to see a couple in like the beginning stages, and then like years later when they kind of have all of that hurt and stuff built up between them. It's just really good. I really love it. I love Fiona Cole's writing, and yeah, loved these two. Next up, I didn't even bring it. It's out in my living room on that bookcase, but I don't feel like getting up right now to go and get it, but that's The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. So this one is not a romance. It does have romance in it, but it's not like spicy romance, so I will just preface with that. However, when I do these videos, I do like to talk about sometimes a few other books outside of romance that I've read and that I love, because obviously those pretty much only ever get talked about in my wrap-ups, because otherwise like I'm not doing like, you know, I don't even know what this is classified as, quite frankly. Like, I'm so out of my depth when I go out of the romance genre. But this one, I guess, is maybe like not like fantasy, I don't know, a little fantastical. Anyways, this one follows Addie. So she is our main character, and back in, is it like in the 1800s is when it starts, and she basically is arranged to be married. She does not want to be in this marriage. She does not want anything to do with it, but obviously in this time, in this society that she's in, there's really no way out. She doesn't really have a choice. So she ends up running away and kind of making a deal with the devil. He's like, fine, I will get you out of here. I'll make it so that way, like, no one can ever come and find you. No one, like, you won't ever have to marry this man. And she agrees because she's in this state of like panic and despair and being like, this is not the life that I want for myself. And when she ends up making this deal, then what she doesn't realize is that this deal basically means that no one remembers her. So she lives forever. She's now like immortal, but no one remembers her. So she walks into a room, she interacts with people. As soon as she walks out, all those people just forgot, so she could walk right back in and they would not remember who she is whatsoever. Are you seriously doing yard work? It's raining outside. You're joking. You're joking. Okay, let me finish up Addie LaRue and then I'll take a pause until they stop. I don't want to stop mid-book with this one. So anyways, that's kind of like her curse then. So she's just going about her life, years and years, like literally like hundreds of years kind of, that she's just going around living, traveling to all these different places. And it's horrible, right? Like not having any sort of human connection ever. That is until one day, I forget what like year it is. It's in more like current-ish times. Then she runs into someone in a bookstore, you know, has this interaction, she leaves, and then like the next day or a few days later, she runs into him again and he recognizes her. And she's like, you're not supposed to, like, people don't do that, but he remembers her. And yeah, it ends up being, you know, this whole story kind of about that. So yeah, there is romance subplot in here. I loved the hell out of this book. I love the ending because it really tugged on my like emotional heartstrings. Like it made me feel a lot reading it. I thought it was such like a creative story. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. And for me being someone who doesn't really read outside of romance, it was one that I really, really loved. Okay, I literally don't know when they're gonna stop. They're kind of like a little bit farther away, but I need to get this video filmed. So we're just gonna like keep rolling with it. If they come really close again, I'll stop. But for right now, we're going to keep it rolling. Next up, I have a college sports romance. Also, if you see my hand moving back here, Dorian's Lane, like right here. Can you see him? I'm just petting him. Okay, so college sports romance, Dare You to Hate Me by B. Celeste. So I love some of B. Celeste's books, but I feel like this is the one that I don't really get to talk about that often, even though it is one of my favorites from her. So in this one, it's another case of them being like childhood best friends and them having distance and then reuniting again in college. So back when these two were teenagers, our heroine had a really bad homeland, or like kind of just bad home situation, and she ended up asking her best friend, like, hey, will you run away with me? And he did not want to do that. He had a good family. He was a star football player, and he's like, I'm going to be going to college for football. Like, I don't want to give this all up. Like, yes, you're my best friend and I want to be with you, but I can't do that to my family. I can't do that to my future. So he turned her down. Now, where they are at, they both end up at the same university that neither of them realizes that they are going to be at. And once again, our heroine is just kind of struggling, picking up the pieces of her life, while our hero seemingly like has it all together. You know, he's now the star of the Linden U football team, and it's just them kind of like getting reunited. And if you know anything about B. Celeste's books, I feel like they are very character driven, which I really love. So like obviously there's no like insane plot twists, things going on here, but it truly is just like these two characters kind of overcoming their own personal struggles and kind of like their hurt years ago, and then kind of finding like a new level ground between them as adults. And I just really loved it. Also, our hero in this one, you know how there tends to be a certain trope, you know, where one of them is like no experience and the other one is like lots of experience. You know how that's normally like the hero is the one with a lot and the heroine is the one with a little? Swap that in this one. Something a little fun and different for you. So anyways, I really enjoyed this one. I want to keep going on with the Linden U series. I think now there are 3 books out in it, and I don't know how many she plans on writing in there, but I really, really loved this one. You want to come and just snuggle? Do you want to come and snuggle? Oh, all right, next up, I got one that I think I've read 4 out of the 6 books in this series, and I think each and every one of them are super fun. But start with Desperate Measures by Katie Roberts. So I read these. These are like Disney retellings. I mean, not like retellings. They're like Disney characters, but like spicy club edition, kind of. Like, it's like a twist on all of them. The one that I'm going to talk about here is Jasmine and Jafar. And it's like basically kind of a smutty Jasmine and Jafar deal. Like our hero, I don't remember, was he business associates with the dad? And also give me grace on this because I read this I think like 3 or 4 years ago even, so it's been a while, but I remember how much fun I had with these books. But I want to say our hero, I think, either like was kind of had like business deals going on with our heroine's dad, but then he ends up like killing him and then taking the heroine for himself, and it ends up being kind of like an enemies to lovers type deal. And it kind of all centers around that these like villains all have this one club that they all go to and that they kind of like hang out at, and he kind of introduces her to that, and then that's where you start seeing some of the other characters. So this entire series is just really fun. Desperate Measures is just the first one, so that's what I wanted to like highlight here. But I do think that this one and the second one are my two favorites that I've read from that. Like I said, the second one is Hades, Meg, and Hercules. And then the third one, why can't I remember the third one? Is that the Ursula one? Like Ursula and Ariel? I don't know. And then the fourth one is the Beast, and that is Belle, Beast, and Gaston. So it's just like, it's so much fun. I mean, like, I obviously love Disney. These are, I would say very loosely, they are like adult Disney, very, very much so, but they're a lot of fun. Also, if you have Hoopla, last I knew, my Hoopla had like all of them, all of the audios of these. Next up, oh, I forgot to grab this one off, but it's right back here, is a bit of a thriller. And here's the thing, I don't really ever, I feel like, get to talk about some of the Colleen Hoover books that I do enjoy. There are certain ones of hers that are not my favorite. Like, they're very hit or miss, but the hits from Colleen Hoover are like hits for me. And Varity was a hit, okay? I loved Varity. This one is a bit of a thriller more so than romance, but there definitely is romance in this. So our heroine in this one, she is a ghostwriter, and she gets handed this opportunity to finish a book for this author that was like very, very prolific, like had a lot of books. I think, did she write like fantasy or like mysteries or something, like fantasies? She had an accident, so she is no longer able to finish her series, and they want someone to come in and finish writing Verity's work. So not only when she accepts this job does she agree to finish writing Verity's books, but she also then agrees to move into Verity's house in order to do it, because her office is like this crazy chaotic mess, and she's kind of got to like make sense of it all and to get these books done. And when she does that, she's obviously then also moving in with Verity's husband and Verity's child. And just when she gets there, she's kind of like freaked out a little bit because Verity's in the house, but she like doesn't move, doesn't speak, you know, like she's just there. And she's kind of like, it kind of feels like I'm filling in for like this dead woman. And then when she starts kind of flirting with her husband, and you know, she just starts kind of wondering like what, like she just starts feeling like a little uneasy about the whole situation. And that only gets heightened even more when she finds a diary of Verity's, and she starts wondering like, who is this woman that she's now trying to finish her life's work, and then also like kind of falling in love with her husband a little bit. I won't say anything more because I don't want to accidentally give anything away. I'm really bad about that, so I will leave it at that. But I really enjoyed this one a lot. The pace was really fast, which I appreciated. I need the pace of thriller books. Like, I don't want a slow burn thriller. I need things to kind of like keep it moving for me because my attention span is just not great. So I need things to kind of move quickly, and I felt like they did move really quickly, and it was an ending that I was very satisfied with. Oh, this other one I also have here, I didn't even realize. I got this chunker, but here's the thing. You might be like, McKay, what are you doing recommending that huge book? This is 3 books in one, okay? This is the Skyscraper Cinderella trilogy by Kay Webster, but the first book is called Stroke of Midnight. So this one follows Asher, and again, it's kind of like a play on a Cinderella retelling, obviously. I'm a sucker for that, okay? I love like classic fairy tale retellings, but like make them romance books. And this one, she is obviously struggling for money, okay? And she ends up getting this job at this one wealthy, like a tower, like, I don't know, business skyscraper type place, and she gets a job in the like janitorial department. And one night she is cleaning the head honcho's office, and she's just kind of like messing around. She's not really like doing a lot of work. She's not like a very hard worker. And our CEO and our hero ends up seeing this, and he's immediately like, call this girl in, I'm firing her. And then as soon as she comes into his office, he's instead like, wait, I kind of want her. And of course then he's like, you know what, here, I'll arrange a different deal for you. Cleaning is clearly not your calling, but you look like you would be a good submissive, and what if I pay you for that instead? and it ends up being their romance. It obviously goes so much more from there. It's like, you know, all this money and wealthy families and scheming and like conniving and people wanting power, people wanting money, people willing to sabotage each other. It's all a part of the Midnight Dynasty world that a bunch of authors contributed to, so you don't have to read any of those other books in order to make sense of this, but other family members do get books written by other authors. All these wealthy, powerful families get these different books, but I specifically really love this one. This trilogy is really, really fun. I remember I like read them all back to back to back because I just kind of couldn't put them down, and obviously it's super hot, so there's that. Next up is another oldie but a goodie that I loved, and again I binged the first 3 books years ago, and that is The Initiation by Nikki Sloan. It's the first book in the Filthy Rich American series. There's actually 5 books out, but the first 3 follow one couple, and then the last 2 follow 2 different couples. This one, basically the premise in this world is this really huge like banking company. Again, we got rich, powerful people with too much money and too much time on their hands that they just like all sabotage and hate each other. And basically, if you want to get on this board, there is this initiation that's kind of like whispered about, if you will, but no one really quite knows what happens, except that basically the board members and one woman always disappear into a boardroom, and no one really knows what happens inside of there. And our heroine in this one, her family they've gotten themselves in a bit of a pickle money-wise, and their mansion, they're in this society, so they don't want people to know that they're struggling, obviously, but they cannot pay their mortgage on their house, basically, and they're kind of on the edge of turmoil and like destruction in society. So they end up doing the only logical thing they can think of, which is offering up their daughter, our heroine in this one, be married to Royce Hale, which is the son of the banking CEO, and he's like going to be initiated into the board soon. And she does not want this. She does not want to be with Royce. They don't really like each other. She doesn't really want any part of this world. She doesn't want any part of this initiation. However, she does not really have a choice if her family is going to, you know, be on the brink of ruin. And also, so not only is it then like the romance dynamic between our hero and heroine, but then also our hero's dad kind of gets in the mix a little bit, and I won't say anything about that, but McAllister, right? That was his name. Why did that just all of a sudden come to me? I think his name was McAllister. You know, he also likes to kind of mess not only with his son, but now also our heroine a little bit too. And this one, again, it's twisty, it's turny, it's got backstabbing, it's got like rich people doing bad things. It's entertaining, all right? And also very hot. And last but not least, let's end it on a super toxic note, and that is Ecstasy by KV Rose. This is arguably, I think, one of the most toxic books that I've ever read. So our heroine in this one, as the name suggests, she struggles a little bit with drugs. And when you first meet her, she's just kind of like this party girl, even though she goes to this one university and is dating, like, I think, is he a pastor's son and like the star football player? He's definitely not like a goody two-shoes kind of guy, even though he kind of likes to present that kind of all-American boy kind of image. He also really loves his party time, and that's how they kind of bond, but they fight so much. You know, their relationship is not picture perfect, even though they're kind of like the star couple. And, you know, he has a roommate. Our hero has a roommate. I think, was his name Eli? And he's very, like, dark, dangerous, mysterious vibes. And he kind of, like, catches the attention of our heroine as well, because she kind of doesn't know what to think about him and doesn't really know what his deal is, but he's really intriguing to her, and it kind of turns into a bit of a love triangle. There is cheating in this one, so be aware of that if that is like a no-no for you. I personally loved it because there's so much toxicity between all 3 of these characters. I will say, honestly, really any of them are super likable, but I love that. I kind of love unlikable characters, especially when they're all so toxic together. It's kind of like you're all horrible and you kind of all deserve each other. And it's just fun to watch. And it ends up just kind of being this messy dynamic between the 3 of them, while then also they're still like partying, but then they're trying to get sober, but then, you know, the one is trying to deal with the pressure from his dad and like being this all-American boy, and then we have this mysterious roommate who is kind of like, what's he doing? What are his motives? It's just, it kind of kept me on my toes guessing kind of what was going on, and the ending was wild. I know that so this book like is a standalone, but I think there are more books kind of like in this world that I want to read, but I won't say anything more because once again, I'm always scared of accidentally spoiling things and I don't want to do that. So anyways, that is it for my books that I love but never really get to talk about. I'm sure there will be one that you guys will comment and be like, you do actually always talk about that book, like that happened in my last one. And you know what? Sorry, but I love these books and I want to talk about them. So if I have talked about them in other, I mean, obviously I've talked about them all in other videos, but I feel like they're ones that are not mentioned super frequently by me on here. So that is it for today's video. I do not know what is coming up at the end of the week, like what I have to go up. So I guess you'll see that when you see that, quite frankly. So anyways, that is it for today's video and I will see you when I see ya.